Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to SoFlo TV. There's a popular artist right now who goes around screaming out Ratty Gang, and you can't help but wondering if this particular artist is indeed trying to revive the Ratty Gang or is a part of the original Ratty Gang. However, today we will talk about the rise and fall of one gangster, Ryan Ratty Peterkin, his method and madness to the end. As it was published, you might have missed. So, the relatively short reign of one of Jamaica's most wanted criminals came to an abrupt end on a early Saturday morning when Ryan Ratty Peterkin, met his demise on the Westmoreland-St. Elizabeth border. Reports are that a security team went to a house in Berkshire district in search of Peterkin, the feared head of the Ratty Gang that operated out of Cambridge and Retrieve in St. James before the state of emergency was established in that parish on January 18th of that particular year. The year was 2018. On the approach of the team of police and soldiers, Peterkin and another man reportedly opened fire and attempted to evade capture. They were not going down without a fight, and these weren't the type of gunmen that would put down their guns and run. They would beat gunshot at the police and soldiers, and the police and soldiers would have to engage them. A shootout ensued, during which Peterkin and his accomplice were hit. The two men, who picked up multiple gunshots, were pronounced dead at the Savalamar Hospital in Westmoreland. An AK-47 rifle with 2 magazines and 12 live rounds of ammunition, as well as a .38 revolver, were recovered from the scene. The matter was referred to the Bureau of Special Investigation, or BSI, and the Independent Commission of Investigations, which is known as INDECOM, the oversighting body for our constabulary force and law enforcement in Jamaica, for investigation. With the conclusion of Peterkin's leadership of the criminal outfit, the Ratty Gang, that drove fear into the hearts of residents of his hometown, the background of their atrocious activities has come to the forefront for all to bear witness, see, and hear about. Firstly, prior to the state of emergency that year, the community of Cambridge in South St. James was under siege as a virtual state within a state, as gangsters there ruled with impunity, including murdering numerous women, with 3 perishing within less than 72 hours in one case. In the first of the murders, which took place shortly after 11 on a Saturday night, the gangsters invaded a house on Mother Lane in the community and killed Anne Marie Johnson, who was 44 years old, and her 24-year-old daughter, Shantoy Mackenzie. Now, this killing of this mother and daughter, this one was especially horrible. This killing happened even though the 2 women were relatives of Peterkin. Responding to the development, residents of the community spoke anonymously, said that the mother and the daughter had angered the gangsters because the gangsters had taken some of their goats and chickens off of their farms, and they had a big party, and curry goat was cooking and jerk chicken and all these things, and they did not ask permission. They just decided we're going to have a party, we're going to string up sound, and goat and chicken is going to be on the menu. But where do we get goat and chicken? Because we're not paying anybody for it. And they took the goat and chickens from this mother and daughter couple. The hoodlums stole them, slaughtered the goats and chickens, and provided food at the party. And the thugs kept that party right there in that same area. So you can imagine being a farmer, knowing that that is your goat. Everybody is eating curry goat and drinking manish water. That those are your chickens that are missing. Everybody is eating jerk chicken and curry chicken and white rice. And you cannot say, hey man, why did you do that to me? You did me wrong. At least pay for the something them. The mother and daughter went and made a report to the police, and for that they paid with their lives. In the second incident, which happened shortly before 11 a.m., a few days later, Roxanne Daly, she was 17, a recent graduate of Cambridge High. She was shot dead as she walked along MacLeod Road towards her mother's home. It was not established what prompted the attack on Daly. Indications from concerned residents and the local police themselves were that Peterkin and his cronies were so heavily armed that the police in the area were actually afraid to challenge them. In the case of 17-year-old Roxanne Daly, what local word of mouth said was this was a proper case of, hey gal, come here. Bad man want you. Bring you something, come give me gal. Bring your body, come give me gal. In other words, she was supposed to report to one of the gangsters for her proper flogging, if you will. And she refused their advance and ended up paying with her life. In fact, there were reports from the local police themselves that at least 3 occasions when they tried to venture into the Cambridge community, the vehicle that they drove were shot up by the gangsters from unknown locations, with the gunman being forced to hightail it out of the community. The lawmen, rather, being forced to hightail it out of the community, not knowing where they're being shot at from, and knowing that these were high-power rifles shooting up their vehicle. Police were afraid to enter the community. In at least one case, on foot, after having arrived in a vehicle, meaning they shot up the police vehicle so badly it disabled the vehicle, the police had to bail out of the vehicle and run on foot out of the community. Oh yeah, the Ratty gang was nothing to play with. Residents reported that the gangsters operating between Cambridge and Retrieve, they openly walk the streets with high-powered rifles because it's their area and them lock down the place. Not even soldier or police can tell them anything. This was while Peterkin was reportedly linked to the deadly lotto scamming phenomenon, which was said to have helped to fund the acquisitions of their weaponry. So you're getting a lot of money from scamming. You make sure you use some of that a lot of money to acquire some high power weapons and a whole lot of ammunition. Additionally, the gangster reportedly established an illegal toll in the area through which they extorted money from motorists. They would literally walk out into the middle of the road, pointing a rifle at the windscreen of any vehicle they chose, truck driver, car, and they would demand a toll, and you would pay the toll or you would pay with your life. The situation reportedly got even deadlier after a splitting up of the Ratty gang happened, resulting in fatal attacks on members of Peterkin's own family by breakaway factions who were his former cronies. This made him get dread, more angry, more vicious in his ways. So the situation got so bad that relatives of Peterkin at one stage reportedly called for the security forces to bring an end to his illegal activities in order for them to be able to return to some level of dignity to their family's name. Them say, we love him, but boy, the way how we live right now, it better him dead and we bury him and we carry on with our life, because they are getting it from all angles. Law enforcement official, police and soldiers not stop kick off them doors, searching up everybody, asking questions, interrogating everybody. Gunmen, other gunmen who are his enemies, were targeting his family as well. So they were not safe either here nor there. Their anxiety reportedly stemmed from a vicious feud between the Notorious gangster and his former top lieutenant Delano Wilmot, which resulted in the murder of 4 of Peterkin's relatives. Delano Wilmot is also one who was very well known, both while he was alive on Jamaica's wanted list, as well as when he was taken out. Relatives of his reportedly fervently urged efforts to end his operations because the emotional cost was just too high a price for them to pay for their link. A link which they have no control over. You don't get to choose what family you are born into. You are born into that family. A family that raised you from you as a boy. And now they can't live in peace because you and your gangster antics. But Peterkin, he remained elusive, hard to catch. And despite being named among St. James' top 5 most wanted figures earlier in 2018, that particular year, and among the top fugitives in the island, he was able to avoid capture. He was able to avoid law enforcement dragnets, checkpoints, raids, operations, and he was reported to have shot his way out of security force dragnets on a number of occasions. Somebody said the guard ring was working. Him fully guzo up. Guard ring have powers. Having been forced to flee St. James, Peterkin became relatively silent and off the radar. But then came Saturday's encounter with the security forces and the sudden end of his vicious existence. Long run, short catch. He was forced to flee his area after a state of emergency was established, zones of special operation within the area. The area was flooded now with enough boots on the ground. He did not have enough manpower, big guns, or ammunition to match. So he was forced to move to another parish. Now, while he was doing that, they were on his trail and they were able to track him, and then they were able to surround him and get him. Now, shout out to McCoy News. On Sunday, April 15th, remember, he was killed by security forces on Saturday, April 14th. On Sunday, April 15th, a news team from the McCoy News, they traveled to the community of Cambridge and St. James, and they spoke to a number of residents to get their reactions following the fatal shooting of the area's most feared gang leader, Ryan Peterkin, otherwise called Ratty. Dozens of residents who did not wish for their identities to be known stated that they praised the JDF soldiers because now we can get some sleep at night time. Now we can walk our community in peace like we once did before. Some of them celebrated, clapping and singing songs of joy. The joyful residents were all in smiles, especially those who have had family members who were murdered at the hands of this notorious gang leader. One elderly woman stated that because of Ratty and his gang members, no shop in the area could open in these communities at night time. Close up all of the shop them. The females in the area were considered to be theirs. Any gal me want upon the road, me take her. So the females in the area were afraid to walk the streets at night. They found it difficult to get taxi operators to come into these communities. And most of all, the farmers who raised their livestock there says it coming like a blessing to hear that Ratty is no more. The farmers were terrorized, just like the woman and her daughter, after they took her goats and chickens and slaughtered them and had a party, and everybody was eating curry goat and jerk chicken. All the other farmers were losing livestock and produce as well, and they could not complain about it, lest they pay with their lives. Death of the notorious gang leader Ratty. Now meanwhile, the police had related that it comes as an ease to members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force in Western Jamaica just to know that Peterkin had finally been caught after many attempts and that he was no more. The word they used was that he was slain. Several police officers mentioned that Ratty and his gang had created sleepless nights for members of the forces during his reign of terror. He was heartless and nothing easy. Also, the police stated that Ratty and his gang members depleted the resources, especially at the Cambridge police station. And he is also the first wanted man in Western Jamaica to hold the top spot of wanted men in 3 parishes at once. He was that bad. There was a particular time when it is said that Ratty and his men would stop regular vehicles traversing through nearby his area, and everybody was forced to give up their cell phones and open your cell phone. And he would quickly scroll through the cell phone to see if any of the people had been making any contacts with law enforcement officials. Also, the police stated that Ratty and his gang were nothing to play with. On Saturday, April 14, Peterkin and one of his gang members were shot and killed at a house in Berkshire district in Westmoreland when they challenged members of the joint military force in a shootout, soldiers and police. Peterkin has been on top of the most wanted list in the parishes of Hanover, St. James and Westmoreland for quite some time. He had a lot of people who would hide him, a lot of people who would keep his secrets, and a lot of people who would shoot to save him. The police also stated that 2 illegal firearms, a AK-47 rifle and a .38 revolver with several rounds of ammunition were taken from the men after their demise. Ratty and Notorious, members of his gang, operated out of Mother's Lane in Retrieve area. One police officer says that he can clearly remember Peterkin and some men used to stand along sections of the rugged roadway in Retrieve, and drivers were forced to pay toll, hand over their cell phones for searching, so on and so forth. And the police would witness this and could not do anything about it. He and his men later formed a gang and began their reign of terror, murder, and mayhem in the Cambridge area. Investigators later stated that Ratty and his gang, they were being sought in connection with over 20 different murder incidents across western Jamaica alone. He said that they have been creating mayhem and terror in Cambridge, St. James over the past 2 years. The gang members are heavily armed and they are outfitted with several yes man teenage boys who were recruited at Mother Lane in Cambridge during 2017. Since that state of emergency had been imposed on the parish in St. James, the security forces learnt that Peterkin and his gang posed as market vendors, going out to deliver their goods, and they used that to evade and escape sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth when law enforcement dragnets were out. And again, long run, short catch. My disclaimer is, this is in no way to glorify gangsterism, badmanism, gunmanism. This is just to put this out there to show those who might glorify this way of living that it has a very short lifespan and a quick expiration date. Walk good. I'm out. Peace.